my previous video was actually a reaction to this same guy when he did a video why you shouldn't move to Australia. So I thought, just to even things up, I should look at his video on why you should move to Australia. So this is apparently the one that he did first. He was apparently quite happy with the number of views he got with it, so he decided to do a follow-up, which was the one that I covered previously. So this guy is James Smith. He's from somewhere in the UK, moved to Australia, and this is his idea of why you should quit and move to Australia.
This is going to be a very different educational video than usual. This isn't even actually my desk. That's my desk there. And I'll show you the gym. Come on. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why you should quit whatever you're doing and move to Australia. Yeah, she's beautiful, isn't she? First thing about living in Australia is how accepting they are of you being barefoot, like, everywhere. Grab my phone, go for a little adventure.
Finally, someone who doesn't try to tell us that everyone in Australia goes barefoot. Instead, he's framed it differently. And it's true. None of us blink an eyelid when we see someone getting around in barefoot. Even here in Bendigo, where it is such a rarity, I think I've only ever seen it once. But it's Australia, so if you see someone getting around barefoot, you don't really react.
And for the record, I'm only drinking these because I had to buy 100 of them for a thumbnail that I did for another video. Don't even taste that good. But for any of you that are confused, I'm English. I lived in the UK till I was 27, then had a psychedelic trip, ended up deciding to move to Australia. It was the best decision I've ever made. And throughout this video, you're going to understand exactly why that is. Point number one, it's not that expensive in Australia. Petrol, about 30% cheaper. Rent, even in a rental crisis, nowhere near as bad as London, because to live in the UK, you pretty much got to live in London. Even if you live in Manchester, which is nicer than London, people are like, why don't you live in London? Whereas Australia, even living in Bondi Beach, one of the most famous beaches in the world, is cheaper than London. And I just can't quite fathom that when you think about quality of life.
The thing that I like about this guy is that he is a straight shooter. There were several things that I disagreed with in his previous video, and more because clearly the pair of us come from completely different backgrounds. Not so much he wasn't being critical of Australia that I can think of, aside from perhaps Australian police, and my observation was that it possibly had to do with the way that he came across to them. But he's a straight shooter, and it's so good to hear someone just put it in straight terms. Bondi, that's one of the most expensive areas to live in Australia, still cheaper than living in London. Fuel prices in Australia, still cheaper than fuel prices in the UK. So that's something that's definitely more definitive than what I've heard on so many other videos.
Australia is a lot more affordable, but don't just take my word for it. Let's show you some of it. I need my keys. I'm not going to lie to you, up until the age of 27, I used to get smashed in the United Kingdom every weekend and very often snort a lot of coke. Sorry, Mum and Dad, if you're watching this. Thing is, in the UK, to me, and I'm not telling you how to live your lives, the UK was quite mundane for me and I had to escape it at the weekend. It was almost like you have to go through this life of grey skies and people being miserable, then at the weekend, suddenly, boom, coke, booze, whatever. Even something like this car, 6-year-old car. I don't really need flashy things quite as much here than I do in the UK. In the UK, people are like brand new car, finance, need to get a Range Rover, even though I live in Surrey, because they need some kind of experience throughout their day that makes them feel good. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just saying it's very different when you come to somewhere like Australia. Rather than sitting in an overpriced 4x4 car that's never going to go off-road, you could maybe go to the beach and have a swim before work.
I've never really thought about it that way, but he's got a point there. In Australia, we are less focused on material things and more on life experiences. So that's why so many people don't work a full-time job, because for them it's about working to live. You know, it's not about how much money you can earn, it's about how you can fund the lifestyle that you want to live. And for many of that many of us, that means how you can afford to go to the beach 2 or 3 times a week, or go to the lake 2 or 3 times a week, or whatever else that you want to do. That, you know, we do so much outdoor stuff here in Australia that, you know, we have got the perfect weather for living, essentially.
In Australia, one of the craziest things that happens here is if it's your mate's birthday, you all meet up at 6 a.m, you get up at 5:30 to go for a swim in the beach together before work. In the UK, no one is meeting up before work. Coffee shops don't even open until 7 a.m. Here you get a coffee at 5:30 if you want.
I think that is extremely reliant on location. When I lived in Tassie, for most of the year, the mornings were so cold and dark that you didn't feel inspired to get up early. And yet, since moving to Bendigo, I don't think I can't remember the last time I slept in, because it's always sunny, or nearly always sunny of a morning, aside from maybe 6 weeks in winter. It's already warm by like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. You just feel like you want to get out of bed. I think if I lived in Sydney and it was beautifully warm, I'd be up at 5 o'clock going to the beach. So I can see what he's saying, but I think too that is very, very relative. That said, I must admit, even in Tassie, in the warmer months, sometimes I would head off early on my way to work so I could grab groceries before work, get that out of the way, and then have an afternoon free. But, you know, that's not exactly the same as heading to the beach before work. But I do know a lot of people who used to go over the summer, used to go surfing before work, or just go jogging before work or whatever.
And again, this is my personal experience with Australia. It's not right for everyone, but I know there are going to be a lot of you watching this that are in a similar kind of place to me in the UK, where you're like, I'm not happy here. You feel like you're a plant that's been left in the shade that you can't fully grow. And that's actually how I felt. It was just a psychedelic experience that got that out of me. So what we're going to do now is go to the beach. This beach isn't even known for being a great beach. It's just a beach. And another thing, right? You might agree with this as well. Australians, this is just their normal daily life. But as a Brit who came here in October 2016, every day feels like a holiday. And there's a part of you that thinks, how long can you really sustain living in a place that's a holiday? And I've been doing it 7 years. Still feels like a holiday.
So somebody made a comment in one of my recent videos questioning why it is that these British immigrants are fixated with going to the beach. And I think he's just explained it here. Because it's not something that is so freely available in the UK. Unless, of course, you live on the coast, and then even still, you're going to have limited weather in terms of how much time you can spend at the beach. But certainly, if you're living in Queensland or the Gold Coast or Sydney, then you can go to the beach whenever you like. I mean, even for me, when I used to live in Tassie, it's only a 20-minute drive to the beach. Even through winter, I'd take the dogs to the beach for a stroll. And it was just so nice. You'd have the beach mostly to yourself, and it was just so relaxing. So, he's got a point.
Then there's the next thing. Family. It's a long way from home. It's a day away. Yeah, it's 21 hours of flying. Everywhere's a day away. Once my flight got delayed twice on the way back from Berlin. It took me a day to get back to London. It's a day away. Do you miss your family and friends? Yes, but when the plane's going down, you got to put the mask on yourself first, then other people. If you stay in a place you don't want to be in to appease people around you, you're putting the mask on them whilst you slowly suffocate to death. I know, I've been there.
Okay, so this proves to me that the video that I looked at before this one of his, he had sat there and gone, what are the things that perhaps other people might say as reasons not to move to Australia? Because he actually cited the distance as a reason not to move to Australia. Here he's basically said, well, it's actually no big deal because anywhere can be a day away, and you've got to weigh up the quality of life versus staying and suffocating in a place where you're not thriving. So I think, yeah, I can see he's basically answered his own argument here. I do think that he's being possibly a bit more genuine in this video than in the previous video. If you've watched the previous one, let me know your thoughts.
Now, there are also a lot of reasons that I hate Australia. Tax, just as bad as the UK. But if you're going to pay 45% tax bracket here, you know you're not going to get stabbed for your watch on a night out. And there's not going to be any potholes in the road.
You're kidding me, right? There's not going to be any potholes in the road? Maybe the UK's just got lots more potholes than us. But anytime I go anywhere, there's a good chance I'm going to find a pothole. So either he lives in a really good part of Sydney, or perhaps Victoria's just more crap at maintaining potholes than New South Wales.
I know what you're thinking. Spiders. You see one a year. The big ones that you see online, the huntsman, these are actually the ones that aren't even that dangerous. These are the ones that kill the bad spiders, like the redbacks.
Left at the light.
Left at the light. And the funnel webs. You ever seen a funnel web? Oh.
Yeah, I don't care if huntsmen do get rid of the other nasty spiders. I can't share a house with them. They stress me out. They're just too big. I have heard that daddy longlegs, you don't want to get rid of them because they get rid of the bad spiders, and I've always left them alone. But huntsmen, nah, they're not staying in my house.
Our road closed. Where are we going to go? Detour. And here's a crazy thing for any of you that do move out to Australia, right? They don't use traffic lights when they're doing roadworks. They have people there with lollipops. And in Sydney, they kind of always hire hot chicks to hold on to the lollipops. You notice this? You're going through roadworks and you're like, why is there a 9 out of 10 there flipping a lollipop? And they get good money for it as well.
Okay, first of all, I'm not comfortable when men talk about women like that. Maybe it's just me, but I don't like it. Now, in terms of people with the stop signs as opposed to the traffic lights, my observation is that you're going to see the traffic lights in more of the regional areas, the roads where you get less traffic, then you're likely to see them. The lollipop signs, yeah, you're going to get them more in your suburban areas, your city areas, all that sort of busier places.
One of your biggest problems with coming to Australia is visas. So any of you that want to come out, sometimes you just got to put the tip in to see how it feels. Do that, 3-month visa, you get a holiday visa, tourist visa, you must apply before you leave. If you go to the airport and try and get on the flight without a visa, you're not getting on that flight. Use the 3 months to travel. You got the East Coast, you got Perth on the West Coast. I recommend maybe going off to Bali for a few days or a week, then coming to Cairns and working your way down south to Sydney and Melbourne. 3 months, use that. If you don't like it, you can go back to your job. You can go back to living with your parents. You can go back to the partner you broke up with to go to Australia. They will take you back. They'll just see it as a midlife crisis. But if you come here and you love it, then you got to leave again and apply for a 1-year working holiday visa.
So I think the point that he's making there is that it's not as big an obstacle as you would think coming to Australia. You can always come and check it out first, then go home and come back with a working visa if you like it. Let me know if that's your interpretation of what he said also. He didn't quite clarify why that is a reason you should quit and move to Australia. I think he's just saying that it is a reason why it is not an obstacle, perhaps.
So this is just the local beach. As you can see, it's not even that busy. But if you're British like me, there's something you've got to prepare yourself for. In Australia, all cars have got to park facing the same way. So you can get a ticket for parking your car facing the opposite direction to everyone else, which is mental. It's bloody mental. Do you know what? Do you know what apparently chicks love? You put your arm behind the seat. You like that?
Okay, this guy has seriously got tickets on himself. I'm sorry, but there are some things that I just cannot be kind about in videos. And right there, that's just a major put off. Dude, you're not as hot as you think you are. Now, can someone from New South Wales just clarify for me, because he's mentioned this now twice in his videos, saying that you've got to park facing the same direction as everyone else. Presumably he means that you've got to park on the correct side of the road, and you've got to park in facing the direction that you would be driving on that side of the road. But does that mean that in the UK you just park wherever? Like, it doesn't matter which way you're facing, you just pull into a spot when you see it?
Is that BBL? Can't say that, can you? If you've watched as many Andrew Tate videos as I have, you'll have been called a brokey quite a few times. And one of the things I really like about Australia that not many people are talking about is Australia is a really good place to be poor. Now, obviously not so poor that you're, putting your hand out for money at the side of the road. When I came here as a backpacker, even if I was spending the least amount of money possible, I could spend my days down here chilling out, reading a book, figuring out myself. You can rent a surfboard for near to nothing and you can have a pretty good life. I've told this story a million times before, but when I got out here, I remember sitting in a coffee shop and there was like all these young 25-year-olds that were fit and they were just like serving coffee. And I was like, why are good looking young people working in a coffee shop for minimum wage? So then I realized they start work at 6 a.m, they clock off at 2 p.m, they come down the beach with their friends, they have a cider, they watch the sun go down. And these 24-year-olds on minimum wage are living a better life than most people in the United Kingdom.
It is so true when you think about it. I know a lot of people who, after so many years of working, have dropped back to a part-time workload so that they can just enjoy life a little bit more, because that's so much more important to them than having a bucket load of money.
So many people in the UK earn so much more money so that they can escape the life they don't like at the weekend. But here at 10 a.m, you're feeling a bit flat, you can go down the beach, jump in the ocean, make you feel so much better, and it costs nothing. Everyone talks about quality of life and lifestyle. Do you know what the best thing about Australia is? You don't even need to be that ambitious. If you can cover your rent and feed yourself, you can build a good life, not just for you, but your family as well. In the UK, to take your kid to the beach means you got to sit on a Ryanair or EasyJet flight for a few hours, wait for your flight to get delayed. It's just insane that in Australia, this is just considered normal.
Okay, confession time. One of the things I really miss in terms of living in central Victoria is the beach. For me to get to the beach is a good hour-and-a-half drive away, and I've discovered that the beaches around Melbourne kind of suck, to be quite honest. But yes, for the most part, it is quite easy for us to just head to the beach when we need to recharge. And, while I'm staying here, well, the beach is probably a decent beach is an hour and a half away. At the same time, there's a really fantastic lake about a 20-minute drive from here, where I can go and my dog can have a good paddle in the water. She's happy, I'm happy, I come back feeling recharged. What more could you want?
Another good thing about Australia is it's far enough away from literally everything else in the world that if you want to reinvent yourself, you can. You can come here and be a more confident person. You can be more outgoing. When I got here, a friend that I knew that was here, he made me delete all of my dating apps when I got here, and every girl I spoke to, I had to give them my number in person. James in the UK never did that. James in Australia doesn't do that anymore because my girlfriend would kill me, but I never had any social media followers when I came here. I didn't have any successful business. I'd never even accomplished anything that important until I came to Australia and reinvented myself. Now, for some of you, you might not want to do that, but for some of you, you might.
That's a really interesting perspective when you put it that way. And, I know a lot of people that I know who've moved to Australia from the UK have not really changed a lot from how they were in the UK, but I can see what he's getting at. But the funny thing is, when you think about the early days of Australia, you think about all the free settlers that moved to Australia because they wanted to reinvent themselves, they wanted to start a new life. And you had people who were being paid to come to Australia in the 1800s because they had a trade. They were plasterers, they were plumbers, all those sorts of things. And it seems like it's still going on. People are still coming from the UK to reinvent themselves.
Here's the craziest thing, right? I came back to personal training after my psychedelic trip that happened to be in Croatia. I kind of said to a few of my clients in the gym, some of them I've been training for years, right? And Jackie came in. Jackie, you might be watching this. I said to her, I'm kind of thinking about maybe going to Australia. And what I used to do with my clients was, I used to get them to warm up for like 5, maybe 10 minutes on an elliptical, just so I could sense how they were feeling, whether or not they were run down, just to check in with them. And she stopped in her tracks there. She goes, you need to go to Australia. And I was like, this is my client. She sees me 2-3 times a week. Why is she saying? She said, me and my husband had the opportunity to go there when we were younger. We didn't go, we never went. It's the biggest regret of our life. She goes, because before we knew it, we had kids, then we had grandkids, and now we will never see the one place we wanted to go to. And I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful. And I took it on board, went home. The next session she came in, she was one of my bread and butter favorite clients to see on a daily basis. She literally just said, have you got your ticket yet? She was obviously devastated because, I mean, some personal trainer. But that's the real danger you're kind of rolling with here. If you put this off any longer, just takes one load to grow up a bird and you got a family. Once you have kids, you ain't never coming. Don't be like Jackie.
Well, that's not exactly true, is it? How many videos have I done in the last couple of months that have been expats from England who have moved here and brought their kids with them? Maybe immediately after you've had kids, it might be too much of a struggle financially. But when your kids are starting to grow up a bit, what's the obstacle? If you really wanted to make it happen, you would save, you would do whatever you want, whatever you needed to do to make it happen. I think to say, like, once you've had kids, you can forget it, I disagree with that completely. And like I said, we've seen plenty of YouTube channels that prove that wrong.
So you've probably seen that infamous swimming pool in Bondi called Icebergs. That pool for a visit, including sauna, costs less than entry to the Tooting Bec Lido. I have to send you what the Tooting Bec Lido is. It's like a little pool in London. It's 90 meters long. Do you know what I hate about the Tooting Bec Lido? You made a pool that's 90 meters long, just make it 100. Just make it 100 meters. What's the point? Who designed that? Yeah, we'll come here. How long's that? 90 meters, perfect. Dickhead.
Okay, as amusing as that sounds, can we acknowledge that there's probably a good chance that that pool was actually built before they started using the metric system? So probably if you were to turn around and look at how many feet it was, you'd probably see the reason why it comes up as 90 meters. But yeah, it does sound a bit insane to just have it like 10 meters short.
G'day, James.
How you doing? You all right? Oh, sorry, occupational hazard. Hello. Is it a he?
Yeah.
Oh, he's beautiful. Kelpie cross? Cool, I've got a Kelpie at home.
Now, you may have heard me mention in the past that I've got a Kelpie Lab cross. She's not my first Kelpie cross. I have to say, I am a huge fan of anything with Kelpie breeding. Purebred, partbred, they are the most loyal dogs you are ever going to encounter. They're also somewhat ADHD, super smart, but they just get so easily distracted. I actually read somewhere a comment that Kelpies could actually be the best working dogs if only they could pay attention.
So another thing, you don't realise how gaslit we've been in the UK when it comes to coffee, right? Coffee in Australia is amazing. It's like 10 times better, and I'm not just saying that. It's like unreal. You go back to Costa, Nero, Starbucks, and you're like, why are you selling me dark cat piss? So you come to Australia, you do your work in holiday visa, and suddenly you're a coffee connoisseur. You're a snob.
Okay, as much as I love hearing it when people say that Australia has the best coffee in the world, surely there must be other places that do have good coffee. Like Italy and Rome. I mean, they've got that whole cafe lifestyle there, so surely their coffee can't be all that bad.
And I'm praying on Lord, sweet baby Jesus, that they've got almond croissants.
Hey, how are you?
Very good, thanks. Can I please get a long black with milk? Just some cold milk in the top, if that's
no
right.
worries, all good. Is that a large or a small for the long black?
Oh, I'll take a large, please.
Large, yeah, no worries. And then just some milk
driving.
on the side?
Yes, please.
Yeah, no worries. Having it here or take away?
Take away, please.
Take away, yeah, just $5. Thank you.
Really? Amazing. Which one was it? I'm doing that's crazy. That's a bit, maybe it knew we were close. I'm doing a video now on like why I like Australia. So, you know, saying to the British people, not too many of them, we don't want too many of them. Oh, thank God. What's your favorite thing about living here? Freedom. For me, when I came here as a backpacker, you can have such a good life with not a lot of money. Everyone says quality of life, but whereas here, like, you can have so many little bouts of happiness throughout the day. You get home, your glass is full by 7 p.m.
Sometimes it does take someone like this to point out to us the things that we take for granted. He's so right. You can have one of those days where you just have these positive experiences throughout the day, whether it is spending time at the beach and then going somewhere to buy a coffee and the person knows you because that's where you go regularly, so you have a little bit of a conversation and it makes you feel important. All these little things do add up through the day, and I think sometimes we forget to be grateful for what we do have here in Australia.
Going on holiday for me is a chore now. How long have you been here? 28 years, that's why you sound like an Aussie. Or Birmingham won't hold it against you. So I'm going to convert a few people that are probably in a similar position to me not long ago. What was your name?
Emma.
Emma, lovely to meet you. Enjoy your breakfast. Telling people about almond croissants is like giving your best mate a hit on crystal meth. Once they start, they're probably not going to stop. Why don't we go on an endeavour to try and find an almond croissant? Another thing that I never thought I'd really like about Australia is there are no chains of coffee shops. So like I said, in the UK, you've got Nero's dog shit, Costa dog shit, Starbucks dog shit, and it's expensive. It's like £3.70 for a flipping coffee. This is $5, which is £2.50. So in Australia, which everyone thought was like a really expensive place, isn't.
Sadly, the price of coffee has just gone up heaps. I don't go out for takeaway coffee or even go to cafes all that much at the moment because, you know, if you want to get a decent sized coffee, something you're going to enjoy, a lot of places around here you're going to pay $8 for it, which, well, you know, $6 upwards, but it seems like the standard price at the moment, unless you're having a really small coffee, and even they're way overpriced, is $8 or more. I mean, obviously for me, as someone who is dairy intolerant, I have almond milk, which of course means that my coffee becomes more expensive. But even still, take off the cost of the almond milk and it's still expensive.
So because of that, because of the fact all these kind of chains are independent, they give a shit a lot more about the things they're producing. If you go into like a Bill's in Bracknell and your poached eggs are hard, no one really cares because they're just working for the one big conglomerate business. Oh, sorry sir. But here, because everything's independent, they have to maintain a certain level and quality to the food and coffee they produce or people won't go back. So every cup of coffee, dare I say it, is made with love. Oh, the breakfast is unreal. The bread, oh, amazing. It's worth noting, Sydney, Queensland has the best people, so the north. Melbourne has probably got the best metropolitan vibe, more of a city, great food, probably the best coffee. Sydney's just got like a good pinch of everything. It's not got the best beaches, it's got good beaches. It's not got the best city, it's got a good city. People there are kind of assholes. When you go outside of Sydney, people are much more likely and inclined to say hello to you. Your neighbours will remind you to take the bins out. They'll have a chat with you. And Sydney can be a hard place to make friends. So
That's an interesting observation about Sydney, because in terms of driving, I know that Sydney drivers are possibly the most aggressive drivers that I've encountered between the 5 different states that I've driven in. And maybe that is a reflection of just the general Sydney attitude. Melbourne, compared to Bendigo, not anywhere near as friendly. But I've also noticed it depends on which part of Melbourne you go to.
If you come, make sure you have some kind of hobby or passion project, especially something like jiu-jitsu. I didn't do jiu-jitsu until I came to Australia. That is a very easy way to start making some friends. Because at least you know they're not arseholes, because not many arseholes do jiu-jitsu. Being alone does not mean you're lonely. Aloneness and loneliness are two different things. And when I did start traveling here, I did have a few days on my own. I remember having a wobbly one day and chatting to my friend Lucy Lord, and I was like, I feel kind of lonely. She was like, you're not lonely, you're alone. There's a difference. She said, get a good book, open it, and start being appreciative of the fact that no one's fucking pestering you. And my God, did she have a point.
This guy is a bit of an enigma. Sometimes he says things that to me are a little bit cringeworthy. And then he comes out with stuff like that just sounds really, really insightful. It's like, I don't know how to explain it, but like there's two sides to him. I'm not sure if I were to meet him at the local pub, I'm not sure if he's someone that I would want to be friends with. I think we are so very, very different in some regards, but he fascinates me.
They will have almond croissants, but then so may these. We'll try here first. This bakery looks lit. No almond croissant, only a chocolate one. I'm pretty devastated, if I'm honest. A special mention to my mate George. He didn't die, but he did get a girl pregnant. When I was considering coming out to Australia, I messaged him on Facebook and I was like, oh mate, what's Australia like? And he knew exactly what I meant with that. And he sent me a message that changed my life forever. He said, I'm not going to talk to you until you book your flight. And I was like, oh. Because what I was doing was I was looking for reasons to not take action. I was looking for reasons, excuses. That's why I was asking my clients, oh, I'm thinking of going to Australia. I was hoping that someone in my life would talk me out of it. And then it was only really those last few conversations I had that pushed me over the edge to put myself out of the comfort zone to come. And quite literally was the single best decision of my life. And I don't take that very lightly. I don't even know if anyone's going to give a shit or want to watch this video, but I can't express how great coming here was for every part of my health, my mental health, my business, my relationships, everything. Now I could be completely wrong, but surely coming out and realizing it's not right for you is way better than never even trying. And Tim Ferriss has a famous saying where he goes, someday, when you say, oh, I'll do it someday, I'll get around to it someday, someday is a disease that will take your dreams to the grave. Because there is no good time to do this. There is never going to be a good time to come and pack up everything and go to the other side of the world. So just fucking do it. Do you know what? I was going to avoid saying because I'll get demonetized now and I won't get any fucking money.
Okay, normally I don't mute those bits out, but because he emphasised it so much, he's probably right. He probably did get that video demonetised, and I don't want mine demonetised, so I muted what he said. I also deleted a huge chunk after that where he was going along in a similar vein. I also have left out his outro for the same reason. Maybe I'm just a little bit too prim and proper, but there are some things that this guy says that I just do not like. If you don't mind crass and you're curious, go over and check it out on his channel. But you're not going to get it here. So, thanks for coming. Thanks for listening to my video. If you're new, please subscribe. Also, please hit the like button. YouTube loves it when you do that. It gets my videos out there into the algorithm. It gets them seen by more people. And please do leave a comment below because that also gets more people seeing my videos. YouTube is far more likely to recommend my videos when people are making comments on them. So please do make a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this video. So thanks, and I'll catch you in the next one.